Welcome to Molly's Salon. This is a weekly half-hour show featuring artists, leading thinkers, and creative firebrands. My name is Seema Sueko, and I serve as Deputy Artistic Director of Arena Stage. And this evening, I am Molly's understudy, as she is on a well-deserved vacation. We have three remarkable guests this evening: Sheldon Epps, Leah C. Gardiner, and Ruben Santiago-Hudson. We will be posting their short bios in the chat windows on your screen, so you'll be able to read about them there. But here's a little bit of information about each of them. First of all, welcome. Hi, Leah, Sheldon, and Ruben. So great to see you all. Here's a little bit of info about our guests. Sheldon Epps was the artistic director of the renowned Pasadena Playhouse for 2 decades. He continues as the artistic director emeritus there. He conceived and directed the highly acclaimed musicals Play On and Blues in the Night, both of which received Tony Award nominations on Broadway, and he was also my previous boss. Ruben Santiago-Hudson, arena audiences saw his very deep Tony Award-winning Broadway production of Jitney last season at Arena Stages. When I think of Ruben, I immediately think of his very potent screenplay, Lackawanna Blues, and he is instantly recognizable to many of us for his acting work on Broadway, on TV, and on film. And Leah C. Gardiner is an Obie Award-winning director who has directed across the US and internationally. She recently directed the revival of For Colored Girls at the Public Theater, which received a crazy number of awards and honors. And she's also a writer and a film director. All three of our guests are inspiring, visionary, and multi-talented. Welcome, Leah, Ruben, and Sheldon. How are you all today?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for having us, Seema.
Thank you for being here. So let's just dive into it.
I must say, Leah, since we just had this moment, I really thoroughly enjoyed For Colored Girls down at the public.
Oh, thank you, Ruben. Thank you.
Congratulations on such a remarkable job.
Thank you. I'm very proud of that production.
When it toured years and years ago, I was doing a lot of voiceovers, and I was actually doing a voiceover for the tour. So we're talking about back in the 70s.
Wow.
So maybe 80, maybe 81. I did the voiceover for the tour.
Oh, that's amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah, so I got to see it a lot of times, and
That's amazing.
So refreshing and wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, I was saying to Sheldon earlier. I don't know, Sheldon, are you talking? You're on mute, Sheldon.
There we go.
There you are.
Yeah, Risa Collins, one of the original actresses, was a dear friend of mine from Carnegie Mellon. We went to school together. So I used to hang out at the Booth Theater all the time and saw that show from every angle. It was wonderful.
Which actress were you speaking of?
Risa Collins.
Oh, yeah, brilliant.
She was the lady in red, I believe.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did so much research on that production, and Entezaki and I, when she was living, of course, talked so much about that production in particular. So it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I know I've seen that production, even though I haven't, because I've studied it so much.
When I first came to New York, we were doing a lot of Zaki's work, experimental and stuff at New Dramatists.
Oh, nice.
There's Seema.
Yeah. There's Seema.
Oh my goodness, has a whole bunch of interesting stuff happened while I've been gone?
We were talking about it.
It's a lovely chat.
Well, were you talking a little bit about your artistry? I'm so sorry about that, but clearly the universe wanted me gone for a little bit of time, put me out on a little vacation here. Actually, I wonder if each of three of you could each talk a little bit about how you describe your own artistry. And Leah, could I begin with you?
Sure.
So what makes something a Leah C. Gardiner production? How do you approach a play or a musical?
That's such a great question. And for those people in your audience who are sort of thinking of becoming directors, I think like any any artist, it really takes time for you to truly understand what your art is. And it actually took a review in the New York Times of a show that I did, where the reviewer said that I tend to make plays with incisive clarity and that are sort of very physical and based in the dramaturgy of communication through physicality. And I would say that's really, every production that I do really has that kind of seamless approach. So that's what I would say.
Excellent. Thank you. Ruben, how would you describe your artistry?
Well, you know, I'm working in restorative art. I'm trying to restore some of the dignity and integrity and luster and beauty of my people, you know, that has been damaged, destroyed, maligned over the years. So in all my work, there's a message. I'm trying to find a way to restore what's been missing. And that's not only in the history of who we are, but in the beauty and the magnificence, you know, as well as our anger and joy and all the fabulous parts of Black life that make us, I think, unique in one way because of our journey, but yet, you know, glorious in a wonderful way. So I like cultural specificity and depth in who we are as people.
That's excellent. Great. Thanks. And Sheldon, how about you?
Well, it's interesting because I think directors are often thought of as control freaks and wanting to be in absolute control. But I really think of myself as trying to be of service, first of all, to the play. And as Leah said, bring clarity and specificity to the play. If it's a new play, certainly to be of service to the playwright and make sure that he or she is getting their vision on the stage, not my vision of what it should be, but illuminating their work. And certainly to the actors and all the collaborators. I'm not trying to control the actors or the designers in the production, but trying to help them to be the geniuses that they are and to shine up the diamonds that they are and make them the best that they can be. So to me, it's an art of service.
That's great. This is a question I didn't tell the three of you I was going to ask, but just hearing you each speak about your artistry, I wonder if you could each reflect back on the work you've done in the past, recent past or long past. And if I asked you to tell me about a project you're very proud of, what would that be? What's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
I'll go first.
Okay.
It's not a singular project. It's not a singular play or musical. The project that I'm most proud of is, as you mentioned, Pasadena Playhouse. And of knowing that I made a real difference in that place, that it was in all ways a better theater than when I got there. And in terms of what we're going to talk about later today, genuinely transformed from, broadly speaking, an all-white theater. I used to frequently sit in the courtyard and be the only person under 60 and the only person of color waiting to go into the theater or sitting in the theater or on stage at the theater. And I'm proud to say that by the time I left 20 years later, that was never true. And I'm very proud of that.
Indeed, much to be proud of. Thanks, Sheldon. Ruben or Leah, what's the first project that comes to mind for you when you think about what brings you great pride of the work you've done?
I guess I can go. As I think Sheldon said, it's really hard just to sort of narrow it down to one or two specific plays. But unlike Sheldon, I'm a freelance director and my entire career has been freelance. So when you said that, there were three productions that came to mind. The first, Othello, that I did at the Houston Shakespeare Festival. And my husband played Othello, and it was, I think, the third time we worked together. And it was exciting because we spent the entire rehearsal process not talking to each other. But then on stage, the work was magic. And then the second production that I'm very, very proud of is a Dan Dietz musical called, or play with music, called Clementine in the Lower Nine, that I did at Theater Works in California. And the actress, I was trying to remember her name, was required to play piano. She'd never played piano before. And we just, I hired her because she was brilliant. We worked with her. She learned piano over the course of the 6 weeks. And subsequently, she has done a Nina Simone musical. So if someone in the audience knows the actress I'm talking about, it's unfortunate I can't remember her name because, we work with so many. And then I would say for Color Girls, I was very, very proud of that production. And another final play called Born Bad that I did at Soho Rep that I thought was it's a British play that was really exciting.
I love also hearing about the breadth of the work that you do, Leah, which I think is a hallmark also of how you move through theater as well. Ruben, how about for you? I mean, there's so many projects to choose from.
It's I'm proud of all the work that I've done in the theater. Film is a different thing. You don't get an opportunity to be so complete as a human being. But all the work I've done in theater, but if I had, forcing me to pick one thing, one singular thing that I think would be the benchmark of my career and of sorts would be my production of Lackawanna Blues, which is, where I played 26 characters, sang, danced, and just wrote a love letter to my mother and the woman who adopted me and saved me. And basically it was written as a simple love letter, and it blew up. And became a movie. But the play itself, Lackawanna Blues, would be, if I only could do one show and then lay down and die, it would be Lackawanna Blues. People won't have to wait too long to see it because we have sites on Broadway next season. So
that's so great to hear. I feel like that was one of the first inspiring pieces of theater I saw as a young person who was just aspiring and trying to understand what theater could do and be and who it could be for. And so I'm so pleased to hear that. There's a question in our Zoom chat that says, I'm hoping that Ms. Gardiner might speak a little bit about her work on Sucker Punch here in DC, which was at Studio. Definitely a lot of physicality in that play. For those who may not know what Sucker Punch is, could you tell us about that?
Sure. I love Sucker Punch. It was a British import that Roy Williams directed. It was done at the Royal Court, and David brought it in to Studio, and it was a play that required, it was boxing, and we sort of had to figure out how to, I think there was a 9-round boxing, oh boy, what was it? Yes, it was a fight, and I had to figure out how to sort of capture every moment of the interaction between the two actors. And so I put it on the round, and then I used I think it was called, guys, sorry, this is so long ago, that play, but there was a sort of a kind of a fog and a system that I used that kind of created what felt like a dream world, and it really looked very much like a movie. So it's hard to explain, but it was very physical, and I adored that production. Those two actors were extraordinary.
That's so great.
Fascinating about that production.
How wonderful to hear. Isn't it nice to hear when somebody reminds you of a
Yes.
project you did from the past? And clearly
Yeah.
It was meaningful for Harv Lester, who asked that question. I want to now shift gears. I know we only touched on your artistry, and I'm hoping that for our viewers, if they're not familiar with your work, they'll Google all three of you. There is a lot to read about Sheldon and Leah and Ruben, and so much work to dive into. But I actually want to shift a little bit because the coronavirus disrupted our theater making system. Now that created the space for the illumination of racism that has plagued our field since its inception. And so I really want to touch base with each of you about this. And I'm curious, Sheldon, in this moment, are you optimistic or heavy-hearted about the state of theater, and why?
I'm a little of both, to be completely honest about it. I'm heavy-hearted because so many of the issues that are being talked about now, that are being more boldly articulated about racism in the American theater, are not new. They are issues that I talked about 30 years ago as a freelance director, and as I just said, throughout my entire time at Pasadena Playhouse. So I'm very heavy-hearted that we are having those very same conversations, right down to some of the language, yet again. And that while some things have changed, there is still a long, long way to go. I am hopeful because the conversations are more aggressive this time, and right down to the language of demands, and people not asking for change, but demanding change. And ultimately, I think that's the only way the change happens, not by request, but by demand.
That's great. What do you think the obstacles have been to change? I'm sure there are many, but if you were to articulate, what do you think the obstacles have been and or might be in this moment?
Yeah. To me, I think the biggest obstacle to change in the American theater has been denial. For years and years and years, many have thought of the American theater as an institution as highly evolved, liberal, ahead of the times, and deny that there is actual and profound racism in the theater, and that there are constrictions on people's careers. There's prejudice against audience members, against artists of all types. And in a way, I'd rather fight with an overt racist than someone who is in denial about racism. Because the hardest thing in the world to do is to open anybody's eyes to their own deficiencies. Somebody who will tell you out and out, you're Black and I don't like you, I got it. And I know how to move forward from that. But those in the American theater who will insist that there is no problem, there hasn't been a problem, and even now people insisting there is not a problem, make the fight very, very difficult.
Thanks for that, Sheldon. Leah, all four of us serve on the executive board of Stage Directors and Choreographers Society, which is the union for directors and choreographers. And you took the lead on behalf of SDC, of our board, to write a response to the systemic racism we were seeing. I wonder if you could share where your mind is today on this, whether it's the current state of SDC and or the current state of your personal work, your personal perspective, some weeks since we've written that statement.
It's interesting. I mean, one of the things that I was really encouraging, and I didn't write it alone. I sort of worked with the president of the union and another member, as well as the executive director, and they are all white women. And the thing that I kept encouraging us all to think about was the absolute necessity for our white allies to admit to being complicit. As Sheldon is saying, denial kills. And I think that between that and the We See You movement, I mean, there's been a lot of, as Sheldon is saying and Ruben was talking about, push forward. But with the demands, I'm waiting. I think that Baltimore Center Stage, by taking the lead, was very proud of Stephanie. And sort of saying, this is what we're doing, this is how we're tackling the demands. And my hope and my prayer is that we will see that sort of snowball effect throughout the country. And we will see it, Stephanie, Jacob, Padron, we have a few Nataki, people of color running theaters, you yourself. But we need to see our white allies who are running these, theaters also doing the same. Because then I think we'll begin to see the kind of movement that we're hoping for. I'm waiting.
Thanks, Leah. That's really great to hear. Ruben, there's so many artists who look up to you and Sheldon and Leah for guidance. I think you probably get phone calls. You all get phone calls and emails, I imagine, every day with people asking for advice. I'm curious, Ruben, what are some of the most common things you're hearing from, whether it's early career, mid-career, or even veteran artists in this moment? What are they asking you?
Asking me what to do. What should they do? What's next? That's what everybody is curious about. What's next? And how do we proceed from here?
And what do you tell them?
Well, there's no one complete definitive answer, but I always say, you have to put your bricks in front of each other to make a road. So you have to be active. I'm a very active and have always been very candid and honest and diplomatic in a way, but also very honest about what I'm saying. And a lot of people don't necessarily want honesty. A lot of people don't really necessarily want to know how you actually feel or think about anything. So I said, let them know, talk. I mean, I was just in a master class yesterday, I think it was, and most of the kids that are in conservatories are saying, how do I get the theater department or the conservatory that I am a part of to do plays that I really want to do? I said, go tell them what you want to do. If they don't want to do it, then you do it. Sometimes you have to make yourself not available to other people's whims so you can be available to your own desires and needs. You have to take care of yourself, and right now we're demanding a lot, but sometimes I'm from a generation, you got to go get it. You got to go take it. You got to go take it or make it. And that's hard for people to hear because right now it's just a standoff. Everybody's sitting to hear, well, who's going to make the next move? Who's going to make the next move? But everybody's thinking. And how that thinking manifests itself and develops into action or reveals itself is what a lot of people are waiting to happen. And Ruben ain't got time to wait because every day I wake up, another day has happened. And I'm getting closer to the day that they'll throw dust on me. So while I'm here, I'm going to do the things that I plan to do. And from the beginning of my career, it's been nothing but a stop, wall. And every time God gave me some way to get around, over, under, or push it down. And that's who I am. And I'll continue doing that. And like right now, I'm trying to get a play produced and I've heard no for 18 years. But I'm gonna keep just saying, I don't know why y'all saying no. You say you wanna have this conversation. I wrote it. I wrote that conversation very clearly. And people see it, say they love it, and they say, but we can't have this conversation. So that's another no. Part of my business, part of our business is no. I just need one yes. One yes,
right.
Start the fire.
And it's a beautiful play. Your Blues Ain't Sweet Like Mine is really terrific. Thank you for sharing it with me. I appreciate that. I have this other question. We started this by talking about your artistry for all three of you. You're remarkable artists who are contributing amazing work to the cultural landscape of our society. And it pains me to have to be able to have these questions about the racism in our field and then put you in these positions of having to, be a spokesperson. And so that's how I feel about that sometimes, that I want to talk about my art and yet people are asking me about my identity. I'm curious, that might be different for the three of you. So talk to me a little bit about how you navigate that, or is it one and the same? How do you feel about that? Sheldon?
I think we have to find the energy to do both, to continue our paths as artists, to do our work and to challenge ourselves to do the work excellently, but also realize that because we have been very fortunate, all of us in these Zoom boxes have been very fortunate professionally, to realize that we do have an obligation, again, to be of service to others in the field and in service to the field itself. The field will be better if all of this changes. The American theater will be a better institution if there is less racism and more diversity and inclusion. So you just got to find the energy to take that load on as well. And in the meantime, and the in-between times, keep fighting that battle, even as you continue to do the work.
That's great. Thanks, Sheldon. Ruben, Leah, and what are your thoughts on this?
You know, when I was first starting out in the business, I just out of graduate school, and I was directing a show. And I'm going to give this anecdote because it'll help explain. I was directing a show that a white woman was doing a tour of, and you know, I kept hitting wall after wall after wall after wall, and I just could not understand what was going on. Mind you, I was just out of graduate school, and I finally went up to one of the producers, and I said, "Can you just help me understand? Well, why am I hitting all these walls and this other director isn't?" And the producer sort of went like this, and I looked at him. I said, "Well, what's on your arm?" And he said, "No, it's not what's on my arm." And I went, "Oh." And so that's when I first started out.
Wow.
So that knowledge, right, 23 years ago, as a woman of color, trying to, you know, there was Surrett Scott, right? And then there was me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, the battles were real. The battles continue. And I think that, you know, with the work that Surrett has done, the work that I have done, there's so many women of color now who have a place at the table, who own the table, who built the table. And I am grateful for that, because I am every day, as Ruben is saying, you know, I lay the bricks every day, create a foundation constantly, you know, hustle, all kinds of different film, television, you name it, theater. And I think that that's what you have to do in order to lay the groundwork so that the next person behind you will have an easier road. That is the hope. That is the plan. That is what Dr. King said. That is what we continue to strive for.
That's great. Ruben.
See, you know, let's be very clear about it. I mean, we're artists, so we're doing something that we're selling something that people don't necessarily think they have to have. That's a fight. That's going to be a battle. Always trying to prove that this product is worthy of your time. It's the most important thing that's going to happen to you today, to come and see this play that we're involved in. That's a fight in itself. But then when you're Black or Latino or Asian or whatever, anything different other than white male, you're going to fight more. So imagine what we, you know, Sheldon says we're very fortunate. Imagine how fortunate we'd be if we wasn't spending 40, 50%, 30% of our time fighting just to get through, getting past this that they're looking at from the beginning. That, you know, does Ruben only do August Wilson, or does Ruben do Kiara and Ibsen, and does Ruben do David Henry Wong? I'm a director. Ruben wants to do August, and Ruben wants to do Dominique's work, and Ruben wants to be there to be in the forefront of pushing the writers to tell the stories that remind him of his mother and his grandfather and my upbringing in restorative work. But I'm a director, so I can direct, bring me the offers the way you bring you know, you bring a white writer, a Black play, an August Wilson play, but will you bring me Fiddler? Will you bring me Oklahoma? Give me the opportunity to say yes or no. That does not come our way. So we spend a lot of time fighting past this so you can experience some of this and some of this that we have that is so generous that we want to offer. And that's just the truth of the matter.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm curious, it's a tough and heavy time all across the board right now. And I'm just curious, what is bringing you joy? If there has been something today or in maybe this week that brought you some joy.
You got up this morning. You got up.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
You got up. You know, I'm inspired by having a lot of work to do. I don't mean your jobs. I mean there's a lot of mess we got to straighten out. And we as artists are at the forefront of that communication, that direct communication with people who don't look like us, because they come to the theater, whether they want to comment or want a relief from their everyday woes. They come to us for medicine. They come to us for a cure. And that brings me tremendous joy that we, through all the struggles and battles, we are the doctors right now, because these people are running into some of the most dangerous stuff that the world has ever seen right now. They're running into this, and when it's all said and done, they got to come running to us so we can help heal them through our art. So that gives me joy knowing that we're on deck, and we got a lot of work to do. I'm happy about that.
Amen. Well said. Preach, my man. That's it.
Any other thoughts, Leah, Sheldon?
I would say this: contact with colleagues. You know, the opportunity to connect even in this virtual form, to have honest, inspiring, challenging conversations, and to come to places where there is some hope. There is some hope for not the beginning of change, because things have changed, but continued and greater change. Hope always gives me joy.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think this is, you know, when you ask the question, Seema, the first thing I thought of was just looking at these faces, just look, you know, and the spirits of the four of us here, and the people, as Ruben was saying, that, you know, we are touching. It's a very important, this time, you know, every day you turn around and somebody else you've heard of, especially in our business, has been hit with COVID still. And, you know, this is something that we have to grapple with, and we have to wrap our heads around and try to figure out, how are we going to lift up each other in this time and continue to stay up and stay positive. And, you know, truth be told, listen, when the sun comes out, when you wake up, or the rain comes down, when you wake up, gratitude, because we can breathe.
Well, let me say, I have tremendous gratitude for the three of you. Thank you so very much. It's already been a half hour, and we've only touched the surface of these thoughts and ideas, but I feel like you've all been very generous in sharing a bit of your heart and a bit of your minds, your great, brilliant minds with us. I cannot thank you enough. I look forward to the next time we're all on a Zoom meeting together. For our viewers, I know there were questions and comments that came in that we weren't able to get to, but please follow, support these three amazing artists. Our future is in their hands, because they will help lead the way for all of us. Thank you so much for joining us. Mwah. Take care, Ruben, Sheldon, and Leah.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, everyone.
So as we exit, we have a virtual gift of art to share with everybody. This is by Kristen Pope. She's performing her original choreography to We Shall Overcome. And please know that next week, good news, Molly Smith will be back from vacation, refreshed and ready to see everybody on Molly's Salon. Take it away, Brianne and Renee, and good night and aloha to everybody.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome.